Y'all, we love a good crock pot meal around here, and these are some of our favorites. Some I made in the summer, some I made in the winter, but they're all delicious and easy to make. They're not lookers by no means, but they are delicious and family favorites. So I'm going to share with you some recipes that we love and also a dessert that you can make with some apples. You could even do it with peaches, but it's a really easy recipe in the crock pot. So I hope you'll enjoy these recipes, and I will have them linked down below in the description box for you. So make sure you make all these recipes for the fall. Okay, this is Swiss chicken bake, and I made it a little bit different than the recipe. I will have the recipe linked below and what I did different. And I'm using chicken thighs instead of chicken breast. And I've got some cream of chicken soup and a half a block of cream cheese. If I had to do this over again, I will use 2 cans of soup, I think, instead of 1 next time. And I've got some half and half here, and I'm just going to mix that in together. So I'm just combining the half and half in there. You could also add chicken broth. The recipe called for wine, and I didn't have any of that, so that's why I'm using the half and half. And I'm also using this herb seasoned stuffing mix, and I've got some shredded up Swiss cheese. I'm sure you could use some other kind of cheese. And I've got a stick of butter melted. I'm just going to take that Swiss cheese that I shredded up, and I'm going to put that over the top. So now I'm going to take that cream cheese and half and half and cream of chicken soup, and I'm going to pour that over the top of the chicken and the cheese. Then I'm going to add the stuffing mix. It calls for 3 cups, but I didn't want to dirty up another measuring cup, so I just add the spinach, and I'm adding some of the chicken, or adding the whole jar of chicken. And then I'm going to add in some tomatoes. I think that if you use Rotel, that would be good as well, or maybe just some tomatoes with chilies, that would be good too. And I'm going to add the block of cream cheese. And you know I got to add some onion powder. I have to add that into everything. And then I'm going to add in some garlic powder. I used a pretty good bit of garlic powder. And oregano. I could not find my Italian seasoning, so I just had to kind of grab some random things from the spice cabinet to use. And I'm also using some parsley flakes, even though I know that's not an Italian seasoning. I thought that would be good here too. I'm going to add some basil and add some thyme leaves. I thought that was pretty much what made up Italian seasoning. And I'm going to add about half that block of cheese. I think you could pretty much add any kind of cheese. I think I would add some pepper jack cheese if I had some. I think that would be really good in this. And I'm going to add some Parmesan cheese. It's not in the recipe, but I love Parmesan cheese, so I thought it would be good here. And added salt and pepper, which I don't think I added enough salt. Next time I'll add a little bit more than that. And just put the lid on. Just make sure you don't overcook it. So you're just going to stir that around, and it's pretty much done. I don't think I used enough broth. When I saw the recipe on TikTok, it was a little bit more creamy. I paired this with a salad. I just made a simple salad with some cheese, tomato, and onions. Hey y'all, I think I'm making a mess over here, but I'm taking the boys to my grandsons to the splash pad today, so I'm going to throw this in the crock pot. I've had it one time before and it was delicious and really easy, and I've thrown some of it in there already. I cut up about 4 chicken breasts, 1 like medium onion, and I've got 4 teaspoons of, what is it called? Cornstarch. And that's what I've got in here, and I've got 1/4 of a cup of honey. I just went ahead and put it in there because it takes all day to get that out of here. And plus I didn't measure it because I don't know how much was in there, but I'm going to call it 1/4 of a cup like the recipe. I'll have the recipe linked down below and all the recipes in the description box. It calls for garlic, but I'm going to use garlic powder. And I'm just going to measure with my heart. I like lots of garlic in there. And I'm just going to add some onion powder to it too. And also it calls for 1/4 cup of soy sauce. And it's that easy. Just stir it around. And it's so good, and it already smells delicious. All right, it's that easy. Just put the lid on there and cook it 3 to 4 hours on low. All right, y'all. I talked the whole time and didn't know my camera was not going. So sorry about that, but it cooked for about 3 hours on low. So I took a bag of this broccoli and I just steamed it in the microwave. And I put it in here with the chicken, and we're gonna wait maybe another hour and we'll eat. If you have chicken breasts in here, you could probably, chicken thighs, you could probably put the frozen broccoli in there, but I didn't want to cook it too long since I'm using breast. Put the lid on there, and in about 30 minutes to an hour, we're going to eat. All right, it's done, and it smelled so good in the house when we walked in the door. And I just made some rice in the Instant Pot. It took 5 minutes, and we've got dinner on the table. It's so nice to have dinner ready when you walk in, especially if you're like us. We have so much stuff going on in the summertime, and it's nice to not have to worry about walking in the door and having to figure out what you're going to have for dinner. All right, y'all, today's crock pot meal is going to be like a French onion pork chop meal, and I'm going to make potatoes with it. And I did cook the potatoes a little bit because I'm trying to get this meal on the table in like 2 or 3 hours, but you can cook it longer. But I just cooked the potatoes in some water, so I'm letting them cool off. I've got my pork chops here. I've just cut them. I had a whole pork loin that I got at Aldi, and it was really cheap, $1.89 a pound, so I'm cutting it up. And I had some bacon grease from the other day, so I'm going to brown the pork chops in that bacon grease, and that's just going to give it a lot of flavor. You do not want to cook these. And I cut mine a little bit thinner because I want them to cook faster, but if you don't, you can have thicker pork chops. What? It's hot, yeah. So I'm just going to brown these as quick as possible on both sides. All right. They were not on there even a minute. Just as soon as they got some color, I took them off. So I've got some garlic powder and onion powder. You know, Mom's standby. You know I can't cook without that. And I did salt and pepper these after I put them in the pan. Okay, I've got a can of cream of chicken soup and a can of French onion soup. And I'm just going to mix that together. Oh, we got one unhappy in here. He would not take a nap, so hopefully he will not be really cranky while I'm making this. So I'm just going to make sure that it's not really lumpy, but it'll all melt in there. Alright, that's mixed up together. Alright, so now I'm just going to pour that over the potatoes and the pork chops. This already smells good. Alright, I'm going to put it on high and cook this until the potatoes are done and the pork chops are done. My side, I am cutting up some squash. I cut up some squash and an onion, and I'm just frying that in some avocado oil. And I'm also going to add some flour. This is my new favorite way to make squash. It's like fried squash without all the work. You'll just toss that into the squash, and it'll turn golden brown. You might have to put in a little bit of oil, but it's still going to be really easy and way easier than frying it individually in some oil. So I hope you try this. This is the best way to make squash. And now my pork chops and potatoes are done. So now I'm going to work on my other side item. And I have got so many green beans from the garden. So I'm going to cook them in the cast iron skillet with some butter. And then I'm just going to add some garlic powder. And also I'm going to add some Parmesan cheese, because I have got to come up with some more recipes with green beans. If you have any good recipes, link them down below, because I am getting a ton out of the garden. But this was a delicious way to eat them. And this meal was so good, y'all. Perfect for summer. It's a slow cooker pork chop meal, and those easy sides, it came together in no time. So this is one of my favorite summertime meals to make when I've got garden vegetables coming in. And especially with pork chops. I love a good pork chop. Hey y'all, I have another really easy and simple crock pot recipe. And I'm going to use my smaller one because I'm not going to make a whole lot. But I'm going to use my canned chicken. You can use 2 chicken breasts if you would like, but I am going to take a shortcut when I can. And I'm just going to use my home canned chicken. It's going to be a lot easier and quicker. Let's get it all out of there. And if you're using chicken breast, just lay your chicken breast here. You're going to put 1 can of cream of chicken over the top. They double the recipe. I'm only going to half the recipe. So I am going to add a half a block of cubed cream cheese. And this is called like ranch chicken. So I'm going to put in some ranch. I'm not going to measure. Just about 1 teaspoon. And I'm also going to add some onion powder. And you could add garlic powder too, but I mean, how simple is that? I mean, it's summertime. You don't have time to make some elaborate meal in the crock pot. You want something that's going to be delicious and quick and easy. So I'm just going to mix this together. And you can serve this with rice, and you could you can serve it with pasta, but I'm going to serve it with some spaghetti noodles. It's going to be delicious too. I bet it's going to be good with rice too. You could also, instead of ranch powder, you can use the packet of Italian dressing. I've seen that as well, but I think I like this the best. You can put any kind of spice that you want in there. All right, that cream cheese will melt. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that cook. Y'all, I did not think this is going to be anything all that great, but it's delicious. It is like chicken and dumplings without the dumplings. It is so good. But I had some fettuccine. I wanted the bow ties. I thought that would be good with this, but I didn't have any. So all I had was fettuccine, but that's still going to be good. I cannot wait to dig in, y'all. This was... With the shredded chicken, it took about an hour and it was done. So if you have regular chicken breasts, you could cut them up and it probably wouldn't take that long, maybe 2 hours, but this is going to be delicious. I'm going to put some Parmesan cheese on here. It's got a simple salad. I made some ranch dressing, and this is what we're having for dinner. I'm going to start by browning the pork chops. I'm normally like just a dump and go recipe, but I think this makes a big difference. So I've got some bacon grease from the refrigerator that I'm going to use up. So I'm going to put that in the pan, the screaming hot pan, and get my pork chops brown just on each side. I want them to be a golden color. And while they are browning, I'm going to go ahead and mix up the broth that goes over the top. It calls for apple juice. I didn't have any, so I used some apple sauce and some water. You could also mix some broth with that too. And I'm going to add in some brown sugar. You do need salt in this recipe. It didn't call for salt, so I highly recommend you brown the pork chops, salt them before you put them in here, and salt this broth as well. And I'm going to add in some apple cider vinegar, a couple tablespoons. I will have the video link down, or the recipe link down below in the description box. And I'm adding in some mustard. It doesn't call for spicy brown mustard. It called for a different kind, but this is all I had, so I mixed that in there. And I'm adding in some paprika, measuring with my heart. So my pork chops are brown, and I layered some onions on the bottom of the pan. And this was so easy to put together. I put this together and the dessert in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to layer those pork chops in, and I also added in all that juice from the pan to give it some extra flavor. Like I said, make sure you salt it. You could probably just salt it here, but it did lack salt other than that. But when we salted it, it was delicious. So it's that easy. I'm just going to cover it, and I'm going to put it on low for 4 hours, and look, they were just falling off the bone tender. And they were loin chops, so that made them better to take the heat instead of, you don't want something that will dry up. You want something with a bone on it. So I'm making my plate. I knew that it had that gravy in there, so I wanted to make some mashed potatoes, so I made mashed potatoes and corn. This is just screams comfort to me. I love pork chops, and they had such a good flavor, and I added that sauce over the top of my pork chop too. We devoured this. We were out all day with the grandkids, putt-putting at the park. So when we came home to this and a dessert, oh my goodness, it was so good. I highly recommend you make this recipe. This was just perfect comfort food, and made in a crock pot. You can't beat how easy it was to put together. So that's all we had left, was just a little bit of that sauce and some bone. So I highly recommend you make this. And now I'm going to make an apple crisp. The recipe calls for making the apples, but I had this already made from another recipe that I hadn't got to yet. Of course, that's the story of my life. So I'm going to get that out of the pan. I'm going to get my fall spatula and get that apple stuff out of the pan and put it in my crock pot without making a mess, which that didn't work. So I'm going to put that apple pie filling in there, and you could also probably just use a can of apple pie filling if you don't want to make your own and just make the oat filling on the top. But that was really easy to put together too. So I'm going to combine some oats, and I'm also going to add in some brown sugar and then some flour. I will have the recipe linked down below in the description box. And I'm adding in some cinnamon. I'm about out, but I need to go to the store and get some because you can't have fall recipes without cinnamon. And I'm going to add in some softened butter. And I'm also going to add in some vanilla, but I was so lazy I didn't want to get out my measuring spoon, so I kind of got it everywhere. I made that's some homemade vanilla that I had from last year. So I'm just going to mix that together, and that's all there is. I wish I would have added in some pecans because I love pecans. So I'm going to add that over the top, and that's it. It was so simple, and I just put the lid on and put it on low for 4 hours since we're going out, and I'm not sure how long we're going to be gone. I wish y'all had smell-o-vision. This smelled the house up. When we got home, it smelled so good, and this was just delicious. It had like that jammy on the bottom, but it still had some chunks of apple. And I didn't have vanilla ice cream, but I found some chocolate, and we all devoured this. All right, y'all. This last one is an easy cheeseburger soup. You can do so many things with it. You could add all kinds of vegetables, carrots, celery, basil, parsley, but I'm just doing a simple one. I've got some onions chopped up and some ground beef, and I'm just going to brown that until it's cooked through. This is going to be a really easy, simple one with stuff that you already have at home. So I browned the ground beef and the onions. I did add salt, pepper, onion powder. You could add garlic powder or garlic. Just make this your own. And if you wanted to make this a thick soup, you could add flour right here and stir that around and cook it for a few minutes and let that flour cook out, and then you'll make a really thick soup. But I'm just going to have a really thin soup, and it also just depends on how much cheese you're going to put in there, because I've got some Velveeta cheese that we're going to put in there, and that's going to thicken it up too. So now I'm going to add that ground beef mixture and a bag of frozen potatoes into the crock pot, and I'm also going to take some of my broth, and I took some the broth and got up all those brown bits on the bottom. It's going to make this soup even better. And I am just pouring in some of my home canned broth that I've got, and you can put in any kind of potatoes. I like the hash browns that have the peppers and the onions too. That makes a good soup too. But we're just going to put that in the crock pot, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the cheese. And I'm putting in about a half a block of Velveeta. You could also put in some kind of a shredded cheese that you have available, whatever you got. I like a combination of the Velveeta and like a pepper jack or a cheddar cheese. It's really good. And even a Colby Jack is good too. And that's it. Just put the lid on and cook it until the potatoes are tender and it's nice and hot and bubbly. And I added some sour cream to the top, and this was amazing. Y'all got to try it. So I hope y'all enjoyed these recipes, and I'll see y'all in the next video.